Yo, people, welcome to another episode of Football Heritage with me, Josh, Dan, Ore, and Denzel. Obviously, like, comment, and subscribe. Obviously, we all heard about the news about Lampard. Uh, I might as well just start off. It was coming. Or it was inevitable. Like, let's not pretend. Um, he did a decent job his first season. Nothing crazy when you really look into it in like the deeper context of things. He did all right. He did what he was meant to do. But second season, he has brought seven players in. Obviously, he has to have time to gel because you've just changed half your starting lineup. You can't expect instant results. But I think a key thing, especially when people say a process, is that you want to progress, and there hasn't been enough progress, unfortunately, and that's the realness of it. And obviously, yeah, he is a club legend, and obviously, it's gonna hurt to see him leave. But at the end of the day, football's business. At the end of the day, now, so man wasn't getting the results. Man loses his job. He should be doing much better than coming ninth. Obviously, the whole talk of winning the league was a bit premature. Like, come on, buying seven players straight away, you're not gonna win the league like that. You have to build some chemistry. But to be struggling in ninth, but yeah, man. So what are you man saying, Daniel? What are you saying about Lampard sacking?
Um, Obviously, I don't think anyone's surprised that he's lost his job. I don't think it's something that before the season started, everyone was going to say, "Nah, that's not going to happen." I think people could kind of see it coming, but people were willing to give him the chance and the opportunity to prove them wrong. But in the end, I think it ended how everyone kind of thought it would end. He bought too many players. He didn't really know what he was doing, and ultimately he lost the dressing room. And I think him losing the dressing room was the worst thing really
Yeah,
for
that was
him.
a
I think
tipping
that's
point.
yeah, I think that was the final straw because as we've seen with Ollie, like there's been a couple of times where Ollie's been very, very close to being sacked, very close. But I think what saved him is probably that the dressing room has always been on his side and they've always been like willing to play for Ollie and give their all for Ollie. But Lampard, I think he had too many disputes with players, and I think that kind of rubbed a lot of the Chelsea players the wrong way, and they weren't really willing to back him. And this is not a first for Chelsea either. Like there's previous managers that have fallen out with players and have been sacked really as a result of it. And I think Frank is just another victim really. He got the job when arguably he didn't deserve it. Obviously, there's loads of managers that gets jobs that they don't deserve, but Frank, it was definitely too big of a job for him too early in his managerial career.
How you are? I know you've been predicting on Lampard's downfall since day one. Yeah.
Um,
So how you feeling about it?
I actually did think they were going to give him till the end of the season, but then when you put it into context, like the amount of money is just really down to the amount of money they spent. I feel like the expectations were just way too high. They wanted him this season. They probably expected him to challenge for the title, and if you take a look, also probably someone like Ole United, I'm sure the board were also looking at that and being like, okay, like why can't you play as good as them? That could also have been a factor. I also put it down a bit to the scouting. I think like the profile of players that they got, I don't think it was really what they needed per se. Like I've said before, I don't think it was a good signing. I don't really think I have a problem with Havertz. I think he'll come through, but then, yeah, I think Werner, in terms of like the scouting, I don't really think it was a good signing. Or maybe he just, he doesn't work with Lampard, like tactics wise. But I don't know. We'll see under a new manager. But yeah. So yeah, I think Lampard last season, the transfer ban, yeah, like Josh said, I think he just did a decent job, and then obviously he got to the FA Cup final. That was good. But this season, I'm sure they expected him to challenge for the title, and it's not looking like he would. So Chelsea also have a very strong history of sacking managers very quickly. So I'm sure he himself too isn't surprised that he's getting sacked because I mean there are a lot of managers who who were even playing better than him that did get sacked. I mean, managers who just won the title. Conte just won the league, when he got sacked. So, I'm sure he didn't really, it wasn't really a surprise to him. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Denzel? You think the right decision?
Yeah, I feel like it's the right decision, but at the same time, I feel like the timing was a bit strange. I feel like it's weird to sack him after he's just won a game. I feel like that was a weird move. But at the end of the day, he wasn't cut out for the job. Like, out of all the managers in the league, I'd argue this season he'd been backed the most. And even with the backing of Abramovich, he still couldn't perform. So that's unforgivable for me. Yeah, you have to be sacked for that. With the appointment of Tuchel, I'm not sure that's the right appointment. Me personally, I don't really rate Tuchel that highly. I feel like anyone could do a job at PSG, to be fair. Man management, I don't know too much about it, but from what I've seen, it looks a bit iffy. I don't know how he's going to do at Chelsea. They're saying like the German connections and all that, but I'm not too convinced by him. Hopefully, well, not hopefully. I don't want him to prove me wrong. I want you guys to flop, but we'll see how he does, innit? Yeah.
I was looking at, obviously, the Athletic know everything, and I was looking at a couple of their reports saying that some players were angry about like the favoritism of Lampard towards the younger players and stuff like that. One thing about me, I don't like to name things that I don't know. So obviously I don't know, but me and Dan were discussing this earlier, the type of players that probably would be angry. So we were saying Rudiger, Alonso, Kepa, Jorginho. And it makes you wonder, these guys have actually been given chances. So how could they really be angry about maybe like the lack of minutes they've had? Because let's look into context. Remember at the start of the season, last season, our centre-back partnership was Zuma and Tomori. Lampard took out Tomori and put in Rudiger, and Rudiger still didn't perform. Obviously, Rudiger was coming back from a long-term injury, but Rudiger didn't perform. Last season, our left-back was Alonso, and we bought Chilwell, so that shows you what happened. Jorginho, as soon as Kante's been fit, Jorginho's been out the side, and who else is the other one? Kepa. Come on, man. Come on. So a part of me feels like while Lampard was out of his depth, he wasn't completely given the best environment. Because if you have a lot of these high-profile players that want minutes, because remember,
there's a couple players that do have a case though. So Tomori and Hudson-Odoi, they do have a reason to be angry because both of them. Well, Tomori's better. He's a lot better than Rudiger, and I don't know. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know. Was there really a reason to drop him last season for Rudiger?
No, there wasn't.
And Hudson-Odoi has been your best player, really, apart from Mason Mount. But Hudson-Odoi coming off the bench has been better than the majority of your attackers.
Yeah.
So
one thing I'll say about Tomori, I remember last season, Lampard always spoke about players being vocal in it, and we know Rudiger's slightly more vocal than most men. So I thought that's probably a big reason why I brought in Rudiger back in, but I don't think that was strong enough to bring him back in. And then with Hudson-Odoi, I remember last season he came in, people were on his case saying, obviously he's not that good and all that. So I feel like Lampard was kind of protecting, but he overprotected him a bit too much by not playing him, by playing Mason Mount out wide at times when Hudson-Odoi should have been given more minutes. But I feel like the board should have done more to get rid of some of the players like Alonso, Jorginho. Obviously, it's hard in the COVID market, but having big players like that are not playing is obviously going to cause issues. So while Lampard was out of his depth, I don't think he's as bad as managers as people try and make him seem. He's not a top level manager, nowhere near, but I would say he's a decent level manager. But some of the tools that he had left remaining, it wasn't the best, I would say, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
The players he brought in didn't really help either.
Yeah.
Because like Werner.
To be honest, I don't really have an issue with the signings, maybe apart from Werner. But
I do think Havertz will come through. Like I've always said that. But then I think, like I said, I think on the last episode, I do think Lampard was a bit naive in some of the signings, like especially Havertz, because you bring in a young player from another league to come into the Premier League and you expect, instant results. It's a bit naive. And you know that with the type of history Chelsea have in sacking managers, you're not going to be there for long. So you'll be trying to bring in players who can get you instant results. And it just didn't work out. The type of players he got in, he couldn't get the instant results he needed. And
But
eventually,
apparently, only Chilwell was his signing. Apparently, the rest were like initiated by the board.
you know what? Yeah, I actually don't know too much about that, but I think I mean, if that is true, then it does make sense because Chelsea would like to go for high profile signings and they would want to promote their brand and stuff like that. So
yeah, but as the manager, you should be stepping in. Yeah, you should be stepping saying, those aren't the signings that I want. I want these players to fit my system. I don't want a bunch of Bundesliga players.
Especially attacking signings, man. Because those are the ones who will be getting you the goals. And if you think this guy is going to come into my squad and he's not going to get me enough, accept those type of signings. I feel like signings. I feel like the signings were just very convenient, and I feel like Lampard didn't the team didn't bother to do more scouting. They didn't bother. They just wanted who is a striker. Who is a striker right now? Who is scoring goals? Werner. Okay, bring in Werner. Who's a younger attacking? Okay, Havertz. Stuff like that. They didn't really look into the player profile, how they'll fit into the team, how they would all those. I think the scouting job was very poor, and it just didn't work out in the end. So, yeah,
because all they could watch was Bundesliga during quarantine, innit? They came back first, so Abramovich was watching Bundesliga. He decided to raid them. Didn't work out.
So would you say it was all the signings, or was it more just the attacking signings? Because I think the defensive signings, they made sense.
I think Silva was a good Silva is the type of example of like a signing where he knew that it's just a short-term signing that he's not going to be there for. He's not. So that wasn't a naive signing. That was decent, and it was a short-term good signing. Chilwell, yeah, I think in terms of back options, but for the price I don't really think it was a bad sign. I just think it was an all right signing. Then who else was there? Mendy to replace Kepa. I can't really. Yeah, that was it. Kepa was quite awful last season, so you can't fault that. It's just really. It's really more in terms of Ziyech. Ziyech hasn't really played a lot of games, has he?
He's been in and out, injuries here and then.
Not really a stable member. So yeah, I guess just really never. Havertz hasn't come good. Werner isn't, getting goals. So yeah, it's more attacking wise, because.
I don't know if I agree with that though, because defensively, even though the personnel might be good, defensively, especially away from home, Chelsea still concede a hell of a lot of goals.
They do. You know what?
Like I think you've conceded 23 goals this season.
They didn't sign the position they needed the most, and that was holding midfield. I still don't know why they didn't go for a holding midfielder in the summer.
He wanted Rice, innit?
Yeah, but
as a centre back though.
Nah, I don't think he would have.
It's not.
That's what Frank said.
More CDM. Well, he wanted to sign him to play him as centre back.
Yeah.
See, that's why he doesn't have a job. That's why he doesn't have a job.
Nah, I think Rice would be decent centre back, honestly. But I feel like
no.
He should have gotten Rice as a CDM.
Better at CDM.
Yeah, he'll be obviously way better at CDM. Obviously, we haven't really seen him in centre back, have we? But yeah.
I think Tuchel will improve them though massively.
I do think that
he's an upgrade. He's an upgrade.
In terms of would he be successful? I can't really say for now, but I do think he would improve them. Yeah, I think he would take.
I agree. Especially the German players. I feel like players like Havertz, I think with a system, because with Frank, personally, I never really saw a system with Frank Lampard. I never really saw anything like these guys do this. The only thing I saw recently was them trying to do a lot of crossing, and it wasn't really that effective. But with Tuchel, I think he will implement a system and players will benefit from that system. Even, for example, Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi is a young winger. We can see that Tuchel helped turn Dembele into one of the best young wingers in the world at one point.
With Frank, I did see it, and a style of play. It was very high press, and it was especially looking to attack down the wings. I've always seen that from him, but of late, the chemistry of the team just looked off. So I disagree with that. He never really had a style of play. I think he did, but the chemistry of the team just never clicked together. And maybe, with the tactics as well, with Havertz, people saying he's playing too deep and stuff like that. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah.
I feel like in the first season he was there, he had a style of play. Like a lot of people acknowledge that when they were doing first doing the comparisons between him, Arteta, and Ole, they were saying the difference between the three of them is that Frank had a style of play, but he lost that style of play in his second season because he just went out, splashed the cash, and the players that he bought didn't work in the system, so he had to try and adapt, and it hasn't worked out for him.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. Being a manager is hard, but it's business at the end of the day. Even though he'll still remain a club legend, but if you ain't getting the points, then you gotta get sacked. That's how it is, man. But moving on, and another club that's in a bit of a sticky one still right now is Liverpool. I don't think they've won a game in 2021 yet, and I was hearing something that they haven't scored in the Prem in 2021 as well. So
they beat Villa's reserves, Villa's kids.
Come on, man. That's a 121 game, man. That don't count. But what are thoughts on Liverpool's form right now? And do you think it's as big as people are making it seem, or do you think it's just a little blip? Denzel, what are your thoughts on Liverpool's form?
Liverpool's form. Or I can't lie. I said this from post quarantine. So when the Premier League restarted, I was looking at Liverpool and I didn't rate them at all. I feel like ever since quarantine, they haven't been the same as they were before. They haven't had that dominance and consistency that they had before coronavirus happened. When I looked at them when we played them in the FA Cup, and I don't fear Liverpool no more. Like before, when we played them, I would fear Liverpool. I don't fear them at all anymore. I feel like issues. I'm going to highlight Trent because of the reason why Trent was so amazing when they were doing well is because he offered a lot going forward. We know that Trent is sus defensively, but he offers a lot going forward. Now he's not doing either. So he's basically there for no reason because he's not offering anything going forward. He's not offering anything defensively. Salah as well is someone I want to highlight, even though he's still scoring. He's wasted a lot of opportunities. Like when I watched the game, there was opportunity for him to square it to Sane. I'm not Sane, Mane. There's opportunity for him to square it to Mane. Mane probably would have scored, but he didn't. He went for the shot instead. So I feel like his selfishness is letting the team down as well. And obviously, yeah, but still, like if he would have probably squared it to Mane, they probably would have got a draw. Maybe it would have gone to penalties or something like that. Or maybe, they might have won the game.
But that's him. That's him. Like he done that when they were winning. He's not. I don't think he's really changed. I think he's still the same.
Yeah, I know, but with the decision making, sometimes his decision making is a bit sus. And when the team's struggling, sometimes you have to feed your teammates. And I don't think he's being. I don't think he's thinking about the team too much. It's still banging in the goals, but when your front three hasn't scored in how many games, you want to get all your teammates scoring. So I feel like he should have squared it in that situation. Klopp as well is just complete head loss. Like his head is gone. We saw it about the whole complaining about the breaks and then playing against Villa's kids, and then the losses against Burnley, Southampton, now United. I saw one interview where he said at the moment the aim is for them to secure top 4. I feel like the title was a little bit of clickbait because he then went on to elaborate that we first need top 4 before we can look at the title. But it's just like his attitude this season. I feel like people are starting to see through Klopp and he's getting a bit of head loss. But yeah, that's my verdict on Liverpool. I don't really fear them too much at the moment. I'm more fearful of City.
What are you saying, Ori, about Liverpool's recent form? Is it a blip or is it something major?
Definitely not as big as people are starting to make it out to be. I mean, it's more of a mentality thing. And then when you think about like them in the past 3 seasons, the first when they got to the Champions League final and they lost you could tell that the team had a drive. They wanted to, they eventually wanted to get back into that Champions League fight. They wanted to win it. There was more like, I feel they're just too relaxed now. That Premier League title and the Champions League, it just, it's just too comfy. Once you've done that, you just feel like, okay, there's nothing to really fight for anymore and stuff like that. But I think Klopp needs to get into their head and make them know that, you have to still be a top, even if you've won the Premier League, like even if you won you still need to, you still need to play at top level so you can continue to win. That's how you establish yourself as a top side. And I don't think they really understand that. Firmino, when he was playing really well, he was really a glue to the attack. Everybody knew that. Like when Firmino is playing well, it just really Mane and Salah also play well as well. So he hasn't for a while now. He hasn't really been. He's been in and out. He has had a few good games this season. Some games he has been quite poor. His finishing is quite poor as well. So yeah, he's a problem in that attack as well. Also, yeah, like Denzel said, Trent. I've always, said that Trent was, he would get exposed eventually when, like, there's no like Van Dijk to cover up defensively. There's no like, and now we've seen Van Dijk is injured, and Trent is suffering defensively. Also, I think they already should have gone for a short-term centre back option this January. I don't know why they haven't. I know it just really seems like something that's quite obvious that the same way Arsenal needed an attacking midfielder, it's the same way it's so obvious that Liverpool need a centre back. But I don't know why they haven't gone for one. But in terms of I think with Van Dijk being out, all of that, no centre backs, the attack not really gelling. I do think it's just a blip. I think eventually we all know what they can do, the players, what they have to offer. I feel like eventually, they would obviously come back to good form. I just think it's like one of those things. There was a time too City had a rough patch as well. I mean, they've had a lot of rough patches too, but everybody knows they still have the quality players, and everybody still knows what they have to offer. And now City are, back almost at the top of the league. I think they have a game in hand now. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I just feel like they would come back to the top.
What are you saying about it, Dan? You think it's a blip or something major?
I think people are making a lot of it because we've seen Liverpool be so dominant in recent years. So seeing them obviously losing at home, they haven't lost at home for like 3.5 years in the league. So that was a major thing that everyone kind of saw and was like, this is not looking good. But I think it's mainly due to the fact that they've got so many injuries defensively. Like they played Man United in the FA Cup and they played Fabinho and Williams at centre-back. And Fabinho, although he's a quality player and he's capable of playing centre-back, his best position probably isn't at centre-back. It's probably as a defence midfielder. And Williams, obviously he's still young, but he looks pretty useless. So I think that has definitely made them a lot worse. And because the defenders are so pivotal to their system, like because Trent has had to assume more defensive responsibility, he's not been allowed that free reign almost to go forward and keep swinging in crosses. And for that, I think they've suffered a lot. And the front three, they've been poor as well. Firmino, he's been poor for a long while. I think last season he was statistically the worst finisher in Europe, and this season he's been even worse. I think it's been made pretty obvious since when Jota came into the team and was scoring almost immediately, playing in the exact same position, that Firmino was a bit of a liability at times. And Mane's not been as good as he is usually, as we've seen this season. He's not scored as many goals. I think he has as many goals as Werner in all competitions this year. But I don't know. I'm still confident that they're a good team, and I'm still confident that they will improve and they'll be in and around the title race come the end of the season. But they need a centre back for me. They need it, whether it's short term or anything. They need a centre back because that's a big worry for them. And as for the midfield, a lot of people are blaming Thiago, and a lot of people saying, since Thiago started, they've not won a game. Which, although it's true, I don't think you can completely attribute it to him. I think obviously he plays a different style to the way Liverpool play. Even though he came from a Bayern team that was a heavy pressing team and played that gegenpress style as well, I still feel as though Liverpool play more crosses and more direct, whereas Thiago is more technically gifted than any other Liverpool midfielder and likes to play with the ball on the ground. And I think that's a struggle area for Liverpool. As we see, Naby Keita is another one who's quite good with the ball at his feet, and he struggled coming into Liverpool's midfield. So I don't know if it's him, the player, or more the system that's kind of limiting how good he is. So that's worrying for Liverpool. But do I think they're a bad team? No. I do think they will be in and around the title challenge, because I think now they're 6 points off Man United, who's first. And obviously that's not a massive gap, because Man United are capable of dropping 6 points and Liverpool are capable of gaining 6 points. But I think the thing that has people worried is how bad they've looked. Like losing at home to Burnley this season have been very poor. And the fact that they lost at home as well for the first time in years is what people are starting to look at and say, are they the same? But I think we'll just have to wait and see.
My thing, let's just see when Europe starts. You know the ones there, because man are not factoring Europe in it.
Because Man United will suffer when Europe starts. Playing Thursday and Sunday is a very big responsibility.
I don't think we will, because I think the wisdom to know that Europa League isn't a priority for us. It's not an important competition for us. I feel like he'll play the likes of Donny van der Beek, Greenwood more in the Europa League, and then rest the main players for the league games. I feel like we have a squad that can be rotated to the point where we won't feel fatigued.
You know what? I always have a weird feeling when people say certain cups aren't priorities, because at the end of the day, United fans always come back and be like, Ole has lost 3 semi-finals. So if they're not a priority, why do you mind him losing? Okay, it's not a priority.
True.
Yeah, but it's the Europa League.
But at the end of the day, there's
League.
No matter how good you play, there always needs to be something to show for it. I mean, Poch was in Spurs for 5 years and he went trophyless. He did play very good football with Spurs. He did come close to winning the title. He did put pressure. He did do well in some cup. I mean, he did take them to the Champions League final. But at the end of the day, there was really
nothing.
There was just nothing to show for it. And do you think Spurs fans are telling me that these certain cups were into parity? Do you know how long Spurs have gone?
Yeah, but that's Tottenham though. That's Tottenham. They're starving for a trophy.
We'll talk about United and their trophy drought another time, minute. You know them ones. And another thing with Thiago, I hate those sort of things because I feel like it's prominent in like football fans to do scapegoating. You're picking out a statistic saying Liverpool have played with him and they haven't won. Give the reasons why they ain't won. You can't just be doing little casual.
I find this stat quite useless when they say a certain player has played in a team when a certain player has, because there was a time where we hadn't lost the game where Mustafi had started or some stupid stat like that. So it wasn't really, the stats are not really, they're just coincidental stats. It just happens sometimes. The thing
I didn't mean that Thiago was the reason.
I know. I'm just saying fans that use that as a general thing to like slay a player. I just don't get it, because you have to actually look at the reasons why Liverpool are doing poorly. And when I watch Thiago, I don't see him bringing them down. Maybe he's not elevating them to that level, but that might just be a team thing where the team, as we can see right now, are just not in good form. So,
but what I think is that fans always set up players in a way to, like, I don't know, to fail. Because when Thiago came, I don't know what I was seeing, the expectations, even the media. I mean, wherever Thiago does, you see commentators always like, wow. And I'm just like, why are you setting him up for the media to, start bringing him down when, Liverpool aren't winning? People now start saying, Thiago, just because of how the media's hyped him up and everything, Obviously,
when you're a world-class player, though, when people are calling you
world-class player, true. But then, I mean, I just feel like, they really have set him up for, people to start coming out. Even though I think he's obviously a good player and all that, but, it's just one of those things where they should have just, the media should just have, especially commentators, I mean, fans, it's just something that, I think it's just been overhyped to a certain point. But,
I hear that, man. I hear that. But, moving on a more positive note, a team that's actually doing well, And a manager that we need to actually give more credit to is Brendan Rodgers. I know people like to label him as a bottler and stuff like that, but what he's done with Leicester is been very, very good, man. Like, obviously, they won the league, but they started to they decline massively after, and now they're on the way up again, and they look like a very, very good team. So, like, what are our thoughts on Leicester, and where do you think their ceiling is, like, with this current team? Because remember, Vardy's at 34, and he's their main goal threat. You know, Casper Schmeichel's in his 30s as well, Johnny Evans. But what's our thoughts on their Leicester evolution, and where do you think they can go on, and where do you think Rodgers can take them to? Dan?
Um, I think I've been impressed with Leicester this season and last season. I think they were very good, and I think Brendan Rodgers definitely deserves quite a bit of respect. Obviously, there's that label, and I've called him out on it as well, that he's a bit of a nearly manager. Like, he nearly won the league with Liverpool, he nearly got Leicester top four, but he never quite made that final step. And ultimately, that's a big step. Like, I mean, you could see with Poch, he never made that step with Spurs either. But there's other examples where the manager has been able to, like, for example, before Jurgen Klopp won the Champions League, people were saying, he's a bottle job manager, he's not capable of taking that final step either. So I think with Brendan Rodgers, he needs more time to prove that he's capable of bringing Leicester into that top four consistently, because last season he only just missed out. And although, yeah, their form during the end of the season was very poor, they did have a lot of injuries, which has to be factored in, and they don't really have the deepest of squads. So it wasn't really his fault, so to speak. But this season, I think Leicester have been very good, and especially considering this season they started without a lot of their key players. So Pereira wasn't there. I think Ndidi's only coming back in recent weeks. Maddison only in recent weeks has come back, and they've got good results. I mean, they beat Man City, they beat Arsenal, beat Spurs. So Leicester have been very good, but I think it's just consistency over the season. Just maintain this form and not drop off like they done last season. And I think if they manage to maintain this form, then that top four place is theirs.
Mm. But that's what we were saying last season. But let's see in it. You know, them ones there. But hey, Ori, what's your thoughts on Brendan Rodgers and the Leicester project?
Okay, in terms of the players Vardy get to the wood, I mean, like, I've been very impressed with how Leicester do business. Firstly, I must say, the amount of money they got from Maguire and Chilwell, about combined 150 million. So I know Leicester are sitting on bags. So eventually, you know, they would obviously be looking to sign a striker. To I've been hearing, you know, Danny Ings is a potential replacement. I think that would be, you know, quite a good signing for them eventually. But I mean, Vardy's still scoring goals, so I mean, that's not really a problem for them at the moment. In terms of Rodgers, yeah, I think that last season he really should have gotten that top four. I think he could just quite fell off towards the end. And like Dan said, yeah, he's usually notoriously known for that, for, you know, just always missing something to just, you know, cross the finish line eventually. But I think this season, with the quality of football they've been playing, they're expected to make top four this season. And I know if he doesn't make top four this season, you know, it just looks like, you know, you can't really say, because coming finishing fifth with Leicester is still, you know, it's still a very good season. But I just think the way he sets them up in early stages of the season and the way they fall towards the end, you know, it must be kind of disappointing. But I mean, this season, if he does come top four, that'll be, you know, very impressive. They will obviously play Champions League football, so that'll be huge for them. But yeah, I think because he took them when they were at like mid-table side, and you know what he's done with them is quite impressive. And yeah, he's been looking quite good for them. So yeah.
What about you, Denzel? What's your thoughts on Rodgers and Leicester?
Yeah, I'm very, very impressed with them. Like Ori said, they do very good business. The midfield, I feel like they have one of the better midfields in the league with Tielemans. Ndidi's come back from injury as well. Their defense as well, even with Sionchu being out, Fofana has done incredibly well. I feel like people need to rate their scouting system a lot more, because if they've done it time and time again, they've scouted absolute gems from Europe. And I don't know what they're doing with their scouting, but a lot of teams need to take note. when it comes to that. And yeah, I just feel like with Leicester, you can see what they're doing. It's just having that consistency and not like completely capitulating at the end of it, like they did last season. But they're in a good position. They just have to remain consistent, and we'll see where they end up at the end of the season. But until the season finishes, I don't think we can give them the credit, because if that's what people did last year and they ended up finishing outside of the top 4. But yeah, they have a good squad and they can do great things.
Moving on, we were actually going to do a look at West Ham, but our West Ham correspondent, Sarah B, he's not here right now, so we might leave that one for leave that topic for another time. But moving on, European football. I can't lie, I didn't really keep up with what was happening in Europe. So did you guys see anything big or major in Europe?
I saw both. Was it both the Milan clubs
Both
drop
Milan
points?
teams drop points. Yeah.
Yeah.
AC Milan got battered.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Interesting.
Atletico have extended their lead at the top. I mean, they're looking really like a really strong side. Felix is playing well. Suarez is also, Suarez is the joint highest goal scorer in the league. So, wait, is it the joint or the? Yeah, he's the joint highest.
Yeah, with Messi.
And then yes, I really do. They really do look like they're going to win the title. I don't think anything's stopping them. 7 points clear. It just seems too easy for them. What else?
Oh yeah, we got a shout Ronaldo, innit? Ronaldo.
CR7.
Yeah, got a shout him out.
They're disputing it. They're disputing it. The Czech FA is saying that he hasn't broken the record, but come on now. They need to give it a rest, man. Just let him have it. We don't care about Big scoring against Farmers and that. Allow it.
Hazard played very well over the
my boy Hazard, man. He's coming, man.
Been a while, but
he's been loading.
De Jong played well with Barcelona. They won the game. Nothing to Dortmund. Dortmund are on some mad losing streak right now. I think they've lost the last 3 games or something like that. Now I think they're about 10 points behind Bayern. So, I mean, that league is just looking very, I don't think no one even tries at this point. It's just, it's just always Bayern. I mean, it's very boring at this point right now.
And with Bayern, Lewandowski scored 500, I believe now. 500 career goals. Man, like Lewandowski, 500.
It's quite impressive.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Big up him, man. Yeah. So who's everybody's stars of the week?
Wait, we done FA Cup round-up?
Who cares about FA Cup, man?
You won United to get the big result. Skip United.
Let me just quickly brush on Odegaard coming to Arsenal. I'm very, very impressed with the signing. I'm happy we didn't go for permanent signing this window. That was a loan deal, 6 months. We see how he plays. Then we'll discuss after. I do think he's going to. I mean, I obviously don't want to jinx it per se, but I do think he's obviously going to be a good addition to our squad, because if you watch him when he played last season for Real Sociedad, I mean, the types of through balls he plays with, that's the type of thing that we've been trying to do for Aubameyang, get him in behind, running between the right back and the centre back, and yeah, he did that a lot last season. So, it'll be good to see him, do that for us. So I think it'll be confirmed maybe today or tomorrow, but yeah, would be a good signing.
I think Arsenal's transfer team this window has been good. I think we need, because obviously we ripped them a bit when we were in our sticky patch, but I think Eddie, we need to give him some credit here, because obviously he's got Özil, he's got Kolasinac, he's got Socrates, all off the wage bill. Admittedly, he let them go for free, but there was nothing else really could have done in that situation. And if this Odegaard deal goes through, which it's looking like it is, he's filled the gap really that we had in the team. So it's looking promising in terms of this transfer window. And Odegaard, obviously, Ori, you're a big fan of Odegaard. You say that he's a quality player. But the one thing I would say is that we need to be careful with 6-month loan deals, because 6 months is quite hard for players to come in straight away and hit the ground running because they don't really have a pre-season. They don't really have time to adapt to the squad, the league. And I mean, the last loan deal we had was Denis Suarez, so from the same league as well. So I think we just need to be a bit careful, but obviously it's the profile we're looking for. So that's why I think we are quite optimistic for this deal and moving forward.
Mm-mm. But let's just group it together. Any stars or wallets of the week? Anybody in particular?
Yeah.
Lampard's not included.
Now I've got a star. Yusuf En-Nesyri. Yusuf En-Nesyri.
The guy that you were slandering at the start of the season.
Yeah. He scored 2 hat-tricks in I think 4 games. So you have to give him credit. It's actually him, not Messi, this joint top scorer of the La Liga. Yeah, so you have to give him credit. We have to give him credit. En-Nesyri. We have to put some respect on his name.
Anybody? Any other guys you want to bring up?
For me, I have a young star, and both of them are young, but one of them significantly younger than the other. So my star of the week is Marcus Rashford. He had a brilliant performance against Liverpool. Was just the whole game causing Trent problems. Trent was probably waking up with nightmares of Rashford because every single time he goes up against Trent, he has a field day. The ball to Greenwood was exquisite, beautiful. His goal, very calm and composed. Yeah, he ran the show. My young star of the week, I'll give it to Greenwood because of his come under a lot of scrutiny this season, but he showed in that game that he's a clinical finisher and that people need to respect him. I feel like people forgot what Greenwood was about, and this game reminded people. So yeah, I feel like I'll give my young star of the week to Greenwood.
The wallet of the week for me is John Moss, the referee between City and Villa. Obviously, there was the offside call, which Aston Villa fans were not very happy about it.
But yeah, man, I think that's it for another week. You know the thing. Like, subscribe, share to your brother, sister, family, anybody. Share that thing, bro. But yeah, man, that's been another episode of Football Heritage. Hope you, man, have enjoyed it. Obviously, we'll see you next week and stay blessed.